G'day, it's Chris. Welcome back to Flat Tank Journey and another episode. The episodes sort of mount up really quickly when you're showing a bit more detail. And I'm still working on the front wheel. I'm only, and I'll give you a quick glance, I'm only a couple of episodes, maybe an episode in front of you. Things are going really well. Not as easy as I thought, but the front wheel's coming along and I think I'll get a result out of it once it's relaced. It'll be cool. Anyway, get into the episode, watch it, enjoy it. Cheers. New morning in the shed, and sadly, some of my footage from yesterday was corrupt. And so you didn't get to see some of the things I thought were important. So we'll just have a bit of a review of this front wheel. So we got up to having the bearings in, seals in, axle in. Here's the spacer that I made. So it's 12mm. It's got a 3mm cutback, and I think it's 2375, and whatever the hole is, and I think that's 2060, something like that. The spacer fits inside. The brake plate fits over the top. Then here's a washer I made. So it's got a little shoulder, it's got a taper and a flat spot for the nut. Now it fits really neatly inside the depression that is in the axle. Then I made a half nut, or a nut that's about half the thickness of a normal nut, and threaded that. It's got a flat side, and it's got a side with a little taper or a shoulder. Takes a little bit to screw on because I made the axle so long, but what you end up with is a brake plate that's secure and clears the wheel. That's the main thing. Now, here's the hole. That's the hole that I bought out. I'll get the brake cam mechanism and we'll put that on and see how all that looks. There's everything installed. The only thing I don't really like is the heaviness of the brake arm. It's really big, and I didn't think it was that big when I bought it. You're buying stuff on eBay, coming in from another country, you haven't got a clue what you're buying, and you're on a wing and a prayer. And it costs $14, so I shouldn't complain. All that said, that's a plausible outcome for me, and could it work? Yeah, it could. At this stage, you know, I'm $14 and a few hours work in, and I'm thinking, yep, that looks about right, except for the heaviness of the brake arm, and it could work. And you really do need brakes. Let me grab the spring that was on that lug, and we'll put that back on. It's not actually a spring, it's actually a dust shield. There's an oiling point, and it still had the original spring on it. So that's pretty cool, and I think it sort of makes the whole thing look about right. Now that's all loose, so it can just flop around. The axle pulls through because I've done nothing about this side. So now I've got to do something about this side. I've got to put the seal in and find a cover if I've got one. And the cover might cover up this gouge that somebody took out of it with a screwdriver. And then we work at putting it in the front end, which would be pretty cool. Now, sadly, the dust covers I've got a pair that are too big and a pair that are too small. So I've just pushed the seal in the front wheel, and you'll see in a minute. I was going to put the wheel and the bike up on the bench, but that's as sketchy as hell. So I'm going to lift the bike off the bench and bring it down here and see if we can drop the front end onto there without making a complete mess. I left enough room. Yeah, baby. Let's not worry about the brake plate for now. Let's get everything stable. Right. Well, that kind of works. That kind of works. But my locking nut and my washer are too big. And so it pushes the wheel too far to the left-hand side of the bike, the clutch side, and then we have no clearance. Or something like that. Come on, I'll show you what I've got going on here. So all my good work might have been for naught, because now I need to bring that front wheel across towards the brake plate side. Either that, or I just have the wrong wheel, and, you know, this wheel I've speculated on doesn't actually fit. Can we make it fit? It would be the next question. Not really sure. I probably need to try and get that lug on the brake plate into the frame, or use the other brake plate. Well, I've decided the first thing I'll do is try and make new nut, new washer. So that's the stack up I had. This is the stack up that I've gone with. That's just a gal washer and a nut. So this narrower stack, where's my calipers, is 562 millimeters. And the old stack is 1168. So I've taken 7 mil out of the stack. Now, I'm going to go back and try and, if this works, sorry, I should say, if this works, I'll go back and make a nut that's exactly the right size to space the brake plate away from the fork. And that'll work well. And so I'll work out the gap. I probably should have done that beforehand, eh? Got overexcited and fitted the nut and made it and thought it'd fit. Thought I was on a roll. These things are sent to trials. Ooh. Now I've got a block of wood under the centre of the frame, but I had a little panic. There's a lug on the brake plate that I actually want to fit, whether it will or not is another thing, inside there. And I just don't know whether it actually fits. That's a pain in the bottom. I'm going to worry about the axle first. Right, we've gained some space and everything actually slides in and the axle nuts actually tighten up. And I can see a gap to the nut and the washer that I put on. So they're too small. So that's promising. And hopefully that nut will screw up into the dropouts on the forks. But everything still binds. The offset on the rim is not in the correct place. Leads to, what's the solution? So the solution, the best solution would be to find the correct front wheel. Logical. One hasn't turned up, and I've done a bit of serious looking. The next solution is that the rims actually need relaced anyway, so you change the offset of where the rim sits over the hub. Now that's really possible. If I can get this hub to work and the brakes work, it's possibly worth, because I've got to get the wheels relaced anyway, because the spokes are damaged and bent and broken. It's possibly worth straightening or realigning the rim over the hub so that the rim sits in the middle. And it'd have to move about 1/2 inch. And that's not impossible. I better work on the hub, the brake plate, and all of that, and ignore where the rim sits in the wheel for now, and try and get the hub to fit the forks. And it appears as though it does. It appears as though the hub is okay. The brake plate might be okay, and the wheel might fit. Let's see how this goes. Bring you along for the ride when I've got something to show you. You hate it when you're trying to video and the neighbours are mowing the lawn. So here's where I'm up to with front wheel. And I haven't been gone all that long. I decided I'd try and space the wheel, the hub, centrally in the fork to see if I could get a better outcome. So here's the side I was working on. I lightly machined this plug so that it will go into the, pull you around the other side, so it'll go into that on the fork, and it stops the whole thing from wobbling around. So I'll stabilise out here. I machined that, put it in a lathe, spun it again, it was okay, not a big drama. Also slightly shortened it so that it didn't bottom out in the hole and leave the wheel sitting further across, because that was an issue. Now, I put the original nut and washer that I'd made back on to the hub, because the wheel actually needs, the brake plate needs spaced away from the fork leg, and that is about 10 mil. Sorry, that's about 12 mil. That gives 10 mil spacing to the fork leg, and that is about right. Then I made a spacer for the other side, and well, I needed to anyway. So it's got a 15 mil hole in the middle to go over the axle, and then this is 23 so that it slides neatly into the seal. It's actually probably a little bit undersized. It'll sit free of the seal. Then I just machined this piece down to a nominal 19 mil, 19 and a half, I think. And that gives me a 10 mil space to the dropout. Sorry, I measured from the dropout. So a 10 mil space to the dropout. Now let me wage war with the world, get this all in, and I'll show you how it looks. There it is. It kind of fits. The rim is still horribly offset one way, but at this stage I don't call that a big deal. The hub itself, now it actually looks quite good in the wheel. The brake plate goes up into the keeper lug, and that works. And it's actually spaced correctly off the axle. The nuts work. This side is really, really good. This side I think I'll remake that spacer because it's just a bit loose. I've actually got the hole in the middle too big, and other than it, all it does is make the wheel hard to get in and out because it flops around a little bit. But I could remake that, and so that spacer is about 16 millimeters from the bearing. Focus camera. 16 millimeters from the bearing to the fork leg, and it works. Now, it'll be a bit hard. I'm going to put you up on the tripod and we can go from there, and I'll show you it does spin. Here's the wheel in the fork. It hits because there's a dent in the rim. This rim's actually got a dent in it, just there, and I hadn't seen it until I spun the wheel, and then you can see it. So there's about 6 mil gap on this side, which goes out to nothing. And maybe it's less. In places it might be 2 mil. And this side, and I've measured it, is about 25 mil. So let's say it's got to go across. The gap currently is 27, so the gap needs to be about 13 or 14 mil each side. So 13 or 14 mil offset in the centre of the forks. So I've got to go across about 11 mil from this side to that side. It'll need relaced anyway, so I don't think it's the end of the world. Other than that, I mean, I've got to spring the fork slightly to get it out of it, you know, a couple of mil, 3 mil. Are the forks straight? I don't know. It's all good. I've had a good time playing with it. That's the main thing. I'm going to call it a victory for now and just move forward quietly, trying to sort out a back wheel. And I need to sort out some handlebars too, because the thing's just a pain in the bottom. You can't wheel it round, you can't do anything with it. And that's why I think it's laid on a guy's shed floor or in a guy's shed for 30 or 40 years. They're a pain in the butt when you can't wheel them round. That isn't perfect, but that could be okay. There's another episode all done, and I'm cleaning up the tobacco tin that I found and working on the seat and having to think about that and looking at the parts I've got. Front wheel, pretty good result. Hope you've enjoyed. If you have, leave a comment, hit the like button, but most of all, hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed to the channel. Hope you're enjoying it. Cheers. Have a good one.